So today we're going to be going over lesson 8A. It's really nothing different in terms of the math you're doing. It's just that today we're focusing on word problems and how to read word problems and set up our answer to them where we get it right every time. So today some key words you're going to want to note. If you see the words per, each, or every, that always means we're going to be multiplying whatever comes next. So per, each, and every are our key words to indicate multiplication. But let's go ahead and fill in your blanks here in your workbook. Students will be able to solve word problems involving multi-step equations. Students will be able to write the mathematical properties used when solving equations. And why am I learning this? All of them are real life problems. Now, what I want you to add in here is that I want you to start every single word problem you see, start with identifying the variable. So you're going to use this phrase, let blank represent blank, every time. So let X represent the number of games. Let N represent the missing number. So you always want to start with let blank represent blank. And I'll show you what I mean with all of these examples today. So for example, let's look at our very first word problem. Mrs. Treble charges her music students $25 per lesson. All right, so we're going to be highlighting quite a few things today. $25 per lesson is important. Per means multiply. Plus is another word that means something in math, so I'm going to write a little plus sign there. Here, let's zoom in so you can see this. Plus a recital fee of $50. All right, so hopefully already you're hearing some math words there. And then it says you pay the recital fee no matter what. So even if you don't have any lessons, you can still give a recital. Not that recital would be that great with no lessons, but you can still technically give a recital with no lessons. So you have to pay the recital fee no matter what. How many lessons did the student take if she paid a total of $175? So I've highlighted some of the key stuff there. You're going to want to look for numbers and look for some math keywords around those numbers. So I know if she paid a total, that's what everything equals at the end. I know per means multiply, plus means plus. All right, but that's not where we actually start. We start with let something represent something else. So what are we looking for here? So it says in the question, how many lessons did the student take if she paid a total of $175? So what we're looking for is the number of lessons. And so that's what I want you to circle with your highlighter, and that's what we let our variable represent. So right here, you'll notice that I already said let blank represent, and then I left it open. So for lessons, let's just use X. Let X represent the number of lessons, because that's what we're looking for. Oops. Let blank represent, let X represent the number of lessons. And then we can use X in place of lesson when we see it. So we start with the question, how many lessons did the student take if she paid that total? So let's let X represent what we don't know, which is the number of lessons. Then we go back and look at these keywords. All right, so now we're going to go back and look for the word lesson. Well, I see it right here. And so now I know I can fill in lesson. That's what we don't know. So we'll fill that in with an X. And now it's just a matter of reading it. She charges her music students $25 per lesson. So that means 25 times X. So 25X plus means plus a recital fee of $50. And her total equals 175. Okay, so that's how you can chunk apart the words that are there. Start with identifying a variable, chunk apart the words, look for some math keywords like per and plus, and total is always what it equals. And now it's just a matter of solving. Well, luckily for this lesson, they don't throw in a whole lot of fractions and decimals. For word problems, they generally use nice whole numbers, which definitely makes things nice. So I'm going to draw my line and circle the variable, and now we work backwards from there. The thing farthest away was the plus 50, so we get rid of that first by subtracting 50 on both sides. All right, that'll make the 50s go away. I'm just left with 25x equals 125. We draw our line, circle the variable. This is 25 times x, and so since it was times, we divide. And 125 divided by 25 gives us 5 as our answer. So what does that mean? So this is a word problem. Words in the question means words in our answer. If I just said, hey, how many lessons did they take? And you say x equals 5, that doesn't make sense. So we have to actually answer with some words. So we say if she paid $175, the student took 5 lessons. So always make sure that your answer is in sentence form. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the next one. Now you'll see on the next problem, I already set up the let blank represent blank, and I set up an answer without even doing any math yet. So that's what I want you doing with all of these problems, is setting it up first to have an actual answer. So let's look at number 2. Sam is planning a vacation. He already has $180, so there's a number. Let's highlight it. He already has $180, and he saves $45 each week. If the trip will cost a total of $900, how many weeks will it take him to save for the trip? So I'm going to circle how many weeks, because that's what we're looking for. So since that's what we're working for, that's what we're looking for, we're going to set up our let blank represent blank. So this time I use W. Let W represent the number of weeks so that I will know what the W is representing. So let's let W represent the number of weeks, since that's what we're looking for. And we know we'll have an answer when we know how many weeks Sam has to save for this trip. So you can go ahead and already set up an answer. It will take Sam blank weeks to save for his trip. That way we know we're actually answering their question. Once we have our answer set up with a blank for the number, then we can go through and look at the number and solve an equation. All right, so let's let W represent the number of weeks. Then let's look at this a little closer. He already has $180 and saves $45 each week. So when he's saving more, that means he's adding to his total. $45 each means multiply by the number of weeks he saves. So each week would be written that way. 180 is what he already had, plus $45 additional each week, and he needs to have a total of $900. All right, so that's how we would set it up. That's the trickiest part. The trickiest part to word problems is setting them up and knowing what kind of answer to expect. Now it's just a matter of doing some simple two-step equations. So draw the line, circle the variable. So the first thing we get rid of is what he already had, the $180. So we subtract that out. We have 45W would equal, let's do this subtraction here. We have a 0, we have a 2, we have a 7. So we have $720 left to save. So if he saves $45 each week, that means if I divide out that 45, then I can figure out how many weeks he needs to save. Now you can either do this by hand, or you'll notice I do have this calculator on the screen, and so we can go ahead and take 720 and divide it by 45 and see what that equals. Looks like it equals 16. And so remember, our answer is not just W equals 16. Our answer needs to have some words in it. So that means it's going to take Sam 16 weeks to save for his trip. So we already had that 180. We could take that out and then divide the rest by 45 each week. So that's going to take him quite a long time, maybe about 4 months or so to save for that trip. All right, so number 3, I set up part of it for you, but that's one that I want you to try on your own. Number 3 says, Carmela wants to buy a digital camera for $192.50. She has $24.75 and is saving $15.25 each week. In how many weeks will she have enough money saved to purchase the camera? So I want you to set up your let blank represent blank, and then be sure to answer the question in how many weeks Carmela will have enough to save, will have enough for the digital camera. So I want you to try that one on your own. So please circle number 3, highlight number 3 as one to ask me about once you have that set up. Now you're welcome to try that right now. If you'd like to pause the video now and go ahead and try it, have me check before you solve the equation that you write, and I'll let you know if you're setting it up the right way. Otherwise, go ahead and keep moving, and I'll assume that you've already paused, and we'll move on to the back side of this lesson. So on the back, we have some other word problems to set up. On this side, we actually have more than one thing that we're looking at. But a little trick here is anytime you see the word than, circle it, because what comes next gets the variable. So anytime you have more than one thing you're looking at, only one number can have the variable. One letter is one number. And so whatever comes after the word than gets the variable. So here's what I mean by that. The sum of two numbers is 180. So right now, I see the word sum. I see there's going to be two numbers and that sum is 180. So we start by setting up a blank for that. So blank plus blank equals 180. Okay, so that's what it means. The sum of two numbers is 180. One number is 18 bigger than the other. What are the two numbers? So 18 bigger than the other number. So we're going to let x represent the smaller number or the other number. Here's what I mean. One number is 18 bigger than the other number. So the other number gets the x, and then we apply on what it says here. One number is 18 bigger than that one. So that means the first number must have been that plus 18. Again, one number is 18 bigger than the other. That means they started with this one and then added 18. So if it's 1, it would be 1 and 19. If it were 2, it would be 2 and 20. If it were 3, it would be 3 and 21. So whatever these two numbers are, one number is 18 more than the other. Okay, so I know that's a little weird, so we're going to see a few of those. And we know that adding these two together would equal 180. So let's go ahead and work this out now. Now I have two x's, so 2x plus 18 will equal 180. We draw our line, we circle the variable, we subtract that 18 from both sides. We end up getting 2x equal to, what would that be? 180 minus 18, if you want to do that by hand. Otherwise, you are welcome to use the calculator. So the two numbers, or two x's, would be 162. One last step here, we divide by 2. And so I'm sorry that I'm kind of running out of space right there, but that means x would equal, let's see, 162 divided by 2. That means x equals 81. But remember, we were looking for two numbers. So that means the smaller number was 81. The bigger number is 18 more than that, so the bigger number would be, 99? 81 and 99 together should equal 180. And you can always check on the calculator if you're not sure. 99 plus 81, and yes, that equals 180. So we know we found the two numbers. One is 18 more than the other, and they can add to be 180. So over here, our answer would be the two numbers are 99 and 81. Again, I know this is kind of a weird way to see this, but that's what we do when there's two things we don't know. We've got to compare it to something. All right, let's try number 6 right here. Eric is 9 years older than Barry. All right, so right away, I see a than, so I'm going to let B represent Barry. Let's let B represent Barry's age. Eric is 9 years older than Barry. The sum of their ages is 31. So blank plus blank, it's a plus because of the word sum, is 31, equals 31. All right, how old are Eric and Barry? So if this is Eric and that's Barry, then I'm going to let B represent Barry. And Eric is 9 years older than Barry. So that means I start with Barry and then I add 9, because being older means you would add. So if Barry were 10, Eric would be 19. If Barry were 20, Eric would be 29. But I know that their ages together equal 31. So that's how we set this up. Again, we combine like terms to get 2b plus 9 equals 31. We subtract that 9 from both sides. We get 2b equals, let's see, what's that going to equal? So 31 minus 9 will equal 22, which means b equals 11. But what does that tell me? Well, b was representing Barry, so that tells me Barry is 11. Eric is 9 years older, so Eric must be 20. Eric is 20 years old, and Barry is 11 years old. All right, go ahead and try number 7 on your own.